This is KGW News at Sunrise.
A wild ride for Oregon Measure 114. In the span of just a few hours, a federal judge said it could take effect this week. Then a state judge stepped in and blocked it from becoming law. We're going to break down where that leaves the voter-approved gun control measure coming up in our top story.
And take a look at this body cam footage of a tigered police officer giving a man CPR after he went into cardiac arrest.
I was told that, the only reason that I am alive is due to the first aid I received.
Wow, now 3 months after that scary ordeal, he gets to personally thank the first responders who saved his life. Plus.
Waking up to a little piano playing on this Wednesday morning here on the Sunrise Show. Michael Allen Harrison live in our lobby right next to the toy box this morning as he gets ready to kick off his annual Christmas at the Old Church concert series downtown. We'll have more from Michael coming up here at 5:15.
What a way to start off our Wednesday morning. That just puts a smile on my face. Yeah. What a talent.
Yeah.
Wow.
He is salty. Are you going to talk to him this morning out in the lobby?
I hope so, Rodney.
I want you
He's
to ask
right
him
the heck
a question.
there.
I want to know, does he ever sit down in front of a piece of sheet music and go, wow, this is difficult? Or is he just so far beyond that? He just...
All right, that's question number one. Question number one, and then question two is, when is your concert?
Love to listen to him play. All right, we have clouds, we have fog, especially up in the West Hills, it looks like. Might be some patchy drizzle out there. We're at 41. And all of you in the Willamette Valley and up in the Southwest Washington watching us this morning, you're all above freezing. How about that? All right, I like our chances of getting at least some sun. So partial clearing into the noon hour, 44 degrees. We'll be up into the mid-40s for high. Rain comes back tonight. That includes some gorge snow and some Cascade heavy snow. We'll talk about that coming up shortly.
Okay, good news for skiers and boarders. Thanks, Rod. This morning, we are talking about more back and forth on Measure 114. It was set to go into effect tomorrow.
But yesterday afternoon, a state judge stopped that from happening. This is our top story this morning, and Devin Haskins is covering it for us. So, Devin, the state judge's ruling came just hours after a federal judge said it could take effect this week.
Yeah, a lot happened yesterday. What seemed like a win for one side turned into a win for the other side. The bottom line this morning, as of now, the gun control measure will not go into effect tomorrow as planned. So here's how we got here. Late last week, several lawsuits were filed in federal court in hopes of getting a judge to block the measure. Then yesterday morning, a federal judge said the measure should go into effect Thursday, with a 30-day waiting period for the permit process. But that ruling was short-lived because a few hours later, a state judge in Eastern Oregon's Harney County ruled in favor of the plaintiffs on a different case trying to block the measure. The judge granted a temporary restraining order against Measure 114, blocking the law until he can hear more arguments about the case. We talked with Lewis and Clark law professor Tung Yin. He tells us he's not surprised an Eastern Oregon judge sided with gun enthusiasts.
Since state judges are elected, although they're going to be doing their best, they're necessarily going to be responsive to their constituencies to a certain extent because, you can get voted out of office. And so, one would expect that in the eastern part of the state that the judges would be naturally more receptive to gun right claims.
So a question many had, so if you're wondering how a state judge's ruling overturns a federal judge's ruling, that's because the state judge was looking at the case through the lens of the Oregon Constitution. It offers more protections and rights than the U.S. Constitution that was the center of the federal case. Oregon Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum says the state will now turn to the Oregon Supreme Court. Drew?
All right, Devin, thanks for that update this morning. We have some more headlines to get to as well, because later this morning at 11 o'clock, the mayor of Rufus in Sherman County will be in court. Mayor Dowin Jones faces charges stemming from a road rage shooting that happened back in October. It was Halloween night when a family with 2 kids was driving on Highway 281 near Parkdale. The family told police that an SUV was driving erratically in front of them and then abruptly pulled over. The family says they slowed down to get a better description of the SUV for police, and that's when they say Jones got out of the car and shot at them. Nobody was hurt, but Sherman County deputies did arrest Jones the very next day. He's facing charges for both attempted murder and assault.
Homeless people will now have even fewer spots to camp along the freeway. The Oregon Department of Transportation is putting boulders along sections of I-5 to stop people from camping. ODOT says the camps are a safety hazard, especially as the weather gets colder and drivers have to deal with slick roads. We spoke to some campers who say this is not a long-term solution.
I think it's a little overboard, a little excessive, if you will, just to keep a little camping from happening. If they had an alternative, that would be one thing. I don't know where everybody's going to go.
This is really first and foremost a safety issue. It's dangerous for campers to be on the ODOT property right next to the state highways.
ODOT is using hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to install the boulders and keep the freeways clear, but say they do hand out brochures explaining where homeless people can get the help that they need.
Well, today is the first Wednesday of December, and the first Wednesday of every month is also a KGW Good Energy Day. This is a day we set aside to highlight local companies and local efforts to protect the environment.
And today, Chris McGinnis shows us how Oregon State University is hoping to revolutionize the way we make batteries.
Today's cell phones, laptops, and electric vehicles are powered by lithium-ion batteries. Their high energy density is great, but they do have a downside.
Right now, there's an expectation by the International Energy Agency that we may be facing a lithium shortage as early as 2025.
Key components to today's EV batteries, nickel and cobalt, are also in short supply. And as Pete Pasters from the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality notes, the processing is equally messy.
Both cobalt and nickel are also a limited resource. One of the difficulties with both of those materials is they're hard rock mined, just like the lithium, so there's going to be the same kinds of environmental impacts.
With a worldwide race to transition to electric vehicles and grid energy storage,
we're in a crisis for the entire humanity in terms of energy and how we use energy, how we store energy.
Enter Oregon State University Professor of Chemistry, David G.
We work on batteries for both transportation and storage.
Fundamentally, today's batteries work the same. They have two electrodes, the anode from which electrons flow out into an external circuit, and the cathode, which acquires electrons from the external circuit. In between, an electrolyte, which allows the flow of ions between electrodes.
For cation batteries, usually anions that are negatively charged atoms are spectators. They don't do stuff. But for our anion batteries, they are no longer spectators. They play important roles.
G is focused on the anions because the raw materials to make those batteries are more sustainable. OSU was just awarded a $3 million grant from the Department of Energy for this research.
I think this is a paradigm-shifting moment. It's very exciting. It's exciting for me and for my student.
A change in chemistry, substituting iron or carbon in the battery electrodes, could revolutionize the way we power our electric vehicles and store renewable energy in the electric grid, a problem yet unsolved.
So we're working hard to materialize this new vision.
Chris McGinnis, KGW News.
All right, we're going to follow up that report from Chris with another good energy story. The Trailblazers are teaming up with a local company that makes electric adventure bikes, and they're creating a flagship hub for these electric motorbikes outside the Moda Center. The company is called UBCO. It's based in Eugene, and the plan is to open up a retail hub right outside the Blazers arena where people can take guided test rides. The hub is scheduled to open up on the Rose Quarter campus early next year.
How interesting. Okay, and I know.
Well, listen, it's kind of like it's like a motorbike. It's not just a bike, it's a motorbike. So it could be somewhat dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
All right, you say so.
Good point, Drew.
We have a pretty good day coming. Take advantage because once the rain starts overnight tonight, it's going to be pretty wet around here at times all the way into the day Sunday. There's the next storm front right here. That comes into town overnight tonight, and the front itself will be through us by the time we get up tomorrow morning. But there's active shower activity behind it. Right now, radar is picking up a little bit of light moisture up in Washington. That's north of our region. There might be some patchy drizzle out there. We do have fog pockets around, but otherwise we're dry. And everybody here on the west side is above freezing this morning. 36 Salem, the same in Eugene, Portland 41, Kelso 39. It's colder out in the gorge. The Dow's at 29. And then particularly cold over in Central Oregon this morning. Bend joining Burns at 14 degrees. Here's Futurecast today. So again, you're out running around, just maybe going to work, getting back, taking the kids to school. It's going to be no issues weather-wise. We're above freezing. We'll be dry, partly or partial cloudy skies coming with a little bit of sun into the afternoon. Here's this evening. Now the rain is hitting the coast. This timeline shows 8:30. And then right around midnight, give or take, we have the rain reaching the I-5 corridor. And by the way, this will be snow later tonight into early tomorrow morning out in the Columbia River Gorge at low elevations, including Hood River. And it'll turn into heavy snow up in the Cascades for a rough travel day during the day tomorrow over the passes. Here we are at 7:30 in the morning. Again, the steady precipitation is over for most of us. The front is up in the Cascades. This will be showers heavy at times coming and going during the day. And then eventually we think the Gorge, Hood River, Stevenson, Cascade locks out to the Dalles will warm up at least above freezing tomorrow and maybe transition into a bit of a wet mix during the day. So here's the headline for that front coming in overnight tonight. 8 to 14 big winds, inches of snow above 2,000 feet up in the Cascades. Hood River could get up to 4 into tomorrow morning. The coast and the valley, at least 1/4 of an inch. The higher amounts of 6/10 of an inch of rain probably over at the coast itself. And then general snow levels Friday morning continue to fall back down to about 1,200 feet. So all that's what's coming up. Today up into the 40s, partial clearing, light winds generally speaking here in the valley. This shows Longview getting up to 45. It does show a little bit warmer up in southwest Washington than down in the mid valley. And then rain at times basically Friday, Saturday, Sunday showers start to decrease. And then we go on a stretch of dry weather to start next week. That could be dry Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. Right now, that's my forecast.
All right, Rod, take a look at this right now. Michael Allen Harrison, we saw him earlier. We see him again playing this morning in our lobby as a preview to his annual Christmas at the Old Church concert series, which kicks off this Sunday, by the way. We get a lot of Michael this morning, and we're looking forward to more. It's coming up right after this break.